Hi, everybody. I'm Chris Primesberger, Editor Emeritus of eWEEK.com. Thank you for joining us today for this latest segment of eWEEK eSpeaks. It's our series of conversations with tech thought leaders from all over the business. Our interviewee today is Bernadette Nixon. Bernadette is the CEO of a relatively new company called Algolia, which does search as a service, I understand. So Bernadette, welcome.
Hi, Chris. It's great to be with you today.
Yeah, good to meet you and hear about the company. Tell me a little bit about your background, and then after that, give us a little high level of what Algolia does.
Sure, absolutely. So I've been here at Algolia now for just a year this month, in actual fact. But I have historically come up through the ranks as the Chief Revenue Officer, and then a few years ago transitioned over into becoming the CEO, which is a role that I love and that I find is quite humbling because you're in service of the rest of the organization and our customers at large.
Very good.
So a little bit maybe about Algolia. We're a search company. That's where we have come from historically, and we are an API first search company, which I'm sure will prompt some good discussion here on the call. And the largest use case that we serve to date is e-commerce search, because there's such a positive symbiotic relationship between having great search capabilities and increasing your conversion and your revenue as an e-commerce company. But when you think about search, it's so much more than the search box that we see on a website. It powers the whole of the browse journey, really the navigation when you're on a site or in an app. But we do much more than just that in actual fact. And in fact, we're spreading our wings, and you'll start to see us referred to as an API platform for driving dynamic experiences. And that's because we've just come to market with a recommendation product, and shortly you will also see us come to market with a series of AI models to enable our customers predict their customers' intent. So it's an exciting time for us right now.
Wow. Okay, you're trying to read users' minds. That's very interesting. So it's all about the user experience, isn't it? I mean, in your business, in your corner of the business, across IT, it's all about making IT and making the web and everything that we do on the web easier without friction to accomplish something. If you want to buy something, you want to order a service, you want to order a pizza, whatever it is, you want it to happen, and you want it to happen right the first time. And so there's a lot that goes on under the hood in this whole scenario. Now, Algolia is it's a freemium model, is it not? How does that work?
Yes, so we have a free version of the product. We also have a trial version of the product. And then you can swipe your credit card, and 30 days later, we'll charge your credit card for the usage that you have accumulated on the platform in that month. Or you can call up and speak to one of our salespeople and enter into an annual contract if you like. But the unit of measure is your search usage on the platform. So it's a usage-based pricing model.
Okay. And who are your customers? Are they going to be developers at corporations or what?
So it's a good question, Chris. So any developer can use our platform. So we have a lot of independent developers, whether it's their own side project or something they're doing for a small business that they work for, all the way up to some of the largest companies, household names that you and I know and love. So it really is both. We go from the independent up to the enterprise customer.
Okay. Now, you're saying too that Algolia is an API, an application, well, an API. I know those APIs are, and it's not an application. it's an API. So how do you market that? Because a lot of people don't understand what an API is.
Sure. So let's maybe
Application programming interface. I'm sorry, I just left me there.
sure. Absolutely. So, I mean, there are many software platforms out there today that, all have APIs. The difference is our product is the API. But it's not just a raw API. There's a dashboard that goes across the top, if you like, of the APIs that we have that mean that we are able to democratize that search experience for many different types of users. For example, if you're a developer, you don't have to be a rock star search developer. You can be a newbie straight out of boot camp. But because we have this dashboard, it leads you through how to best use and get the best out of the capabilities that we have. But similarly, if you're somebody in marketing and you're wanting to tune the search on your website or in your app, you can also similarly use the API because of that dashboard. So we like to view it as really democratizing the capabilities that we bring to market.
Yeah. Would you call that no or low code development? It sounds like it is.
We don't typically use those because they tend to connote to certain thing, the industry analysts kind of define those areas. So we don't tend to use those labels. We are an API platform that is designed for developers to use, but we also make sure that the business users can leverage us through configuration.
Okay. Could you just describe a use case for us? Just maybe one example.
Sure. Maybe I'll give you two sort of very different examples, because that's the beauty of an API. It's always designed to be very broad-based and be able to serve multiple use cases. So a common one, though, is if you're shopping. I was on a shopping site last night. I placed an order just before I went to bed, and I was searching for a particular piece of kit. And I used the search box, but then I used their navigation to be able to get to the right type of product that I was looking for. And then I also saw sort of at the bottom of the search results that they had presented me with, I saw the recommendation carousel at the bottom. So customers who bought this often bought this. So that's how I, literally used a particular e-commerce website last night. And that's a great use case for us. So serving up really relevant results extremely fast, and then making similar recommendations and making sure that we tailor the navigation so it's applicable to that particular user. So that's one use case, a very common use case for us. But a different kind of use case would be, for example, Weight Watchers. They have in their app, they have a food log. And so when you're looking to, let's say you had a Starbucks grande latte for breakfast this morning, and you want to put that in your food log, you search, and it's Algolia Search that is powering that experience. And you can also have great flexibility, because I may have a weird and wonderful omelet I create for myself in the morning. I create it so I can just quickly pick it from a list every morning. That's information that's specific to me that nobody else can search. And again, that's in the app. So we tend to think of things as, an e-commerce app or a media app, or really embedded in any SaaS company's app to power their search.
Yeah, that really explains it a lot more clearly than I understood. So thank you for that, Bernadette. Appreciate that. APIs we've had that discussion before about APIs versus applications over the years. Which one of these is really going to be leading development going forward? And I know you have your opinion. Could you give us that? I think I know what it's going to be, but can you explain why?
Sure. Yes, definitely. You know, if you look at the evolution of software, first of all, we had enterprise software, which was kind of heavy, both in the customer buying process, in the selling process, and it was heavy in terms of the number of years it took to implement. And so, and you were still kind of jammed into somebody else's view of the world, and it was hard to differentiate yourself. So that gave rise to the SaaS market, because people then didn't have to deal with IT as much, and they could sort of be in control of their own destiny, but yet they were still sort of jammed into somebody else's view of the world of how they should present themselves to the world and differentiate themselves. And that's what really has given rise to the API economy, where people don't want to be shoehorned into somebody else's view of the world. They want to create their apps. They want to be able to be nimble and iterate quickly and be able to differentiate themselves. And that really is what the API economy is all about. So, you know, I do believe that the API first software will win out. But as with all of these things, it will take time, and there'll still be a place for SaaS software in the parts of the business where, for example, you don't need to differentiate yourself.
Right. And there's always going to be applications, and there's always going to be APIs. They have to learn to live together, I guess. But
Yeah.
I totally understand where you come from. And having been a former editor at the open source tech group with running Linux.com and NewsForge, that was a network that also had Slashdot. It's now GeekWire, but I really got to know the open source community very, intimately. I have a great deal of respect for them, and APIs, of course, came out of that whole community. And that sensibility, that open source sensibility, runs through this entire genre. It's all been good. I can't imagine what the world would be like without open source software. Can you? I mean, I just can't. It's just everywhere.
I mean, it's near and dear to my heart too. The previous company I was CEO of was also an open source software company. I think the difference with the API economy and the community that surrounds that is that it's extremely fast moving. And so that's something that I have found just invigorating here at Algolia.
My last question, Bernadette, where did you get the name Algolia, or where did the company get the name?
So I've asked Julien Lemoine, who is one of our co-founders, and it was very simply, algo really came from algorithm. And as we wrote our own algorithms, it was algo, and then it was, how did you finish it? And so Algolia was what they came up with.
It sounds great. And we didn't really touch on AI very much, but the whole API is run and depends on artificial intelligence. Did the company build its own engine for this, or did they get parts of it from the open source community, or did they buy one, or what? Do you know?
We actually built our own. When I say we built our own, we acquired a company in January of this year named Morphle out of Romania. And they had built their own AI engines to power what will come to market later this year as our Predict line of products. And it also, we went into beta just over a week ago with our to Recommend products, and it's that AI is also powering our Recommend product as well.
Wow, things are really on the right lane. I think you guys are in the right lane for this. Very good. Bernadette Nixon, CEO of Algolia, thank you very much for joining us today on eSpeaks.
It's been my pleasure, Chris. Thank you.
And for everybody following us here to the end, thank you very much, and have a great rest of your eWeek. Thanks for joining us on eWeek eSpeaks. Go to eWEEK.com to hear more conversations with IT thought leaders.